In a land steeped in history and culture, the story of Syria unfolds, a narrative woven with threads of hope, despair, and resilience. Over a decade of turmoil has transformed this once thriving nation into a battleground. But how did it all begin? Join us as we journey through the heart of the Syrian civil war and explore its impact on the diverse communities that call this land home. Chapter 1, The Spark of Rebellion, 2011 to 2012. It all began in 2011, during a time when the winds of change swept across the Arab world. Inspired by movements in neighboring countries, the people of Syria took to the streets, their voices echoing with demands for freedom and reform. They were tired of oppression under President Bashar al-Assad's regime, yearning for a brighter future. But instead of listening, Assad's government unleashed a wave of violence. Peaceful protests turned into scenes of chaos as security forces fired live ammunition into crowds. The cries for justice were met with brutality, igniting a flame that would engulf the nation. As peaceful demonstrations transformed into armed resistance, the seeds of civil war were sown. Chapter 2, The Descent into Chaos, 2012 to 2013. By 2012, Syria had become a fractured landscape. Armed groups emerged from the ashes of peaceful protests, with the Free Syrian Army leading the charge against Assad's forces. Families took up arms to defend their homes, while others joined the fight for a vision of a free Syria. But as chaos reigned, extremist factions like Al-Nusra Front and ISIS infiltrated the rebellion. They exploited the turmoil, turning the struggle for freedom into a nightmare filled with violence and terror. The battle lines blurred as civilians found themselves caught in an unending cycle of bloodshed. Chapter 3, The Humanitarian Crisis. As the war raged on, Syria became synonymous with suffering. Cities were reduced to rubble, families were torn apart, and millions fled their homes in search of safety. The world watched in horror as images of devastation flooded news reports, children crying amidst ruins, mothers searching for lost loved ones. The humanitarian crisis deepened as entire communities faced starvation and disease. Aid workers risked their lives to bring food and medical supplies to those trapped in besieged areas. Yet hope flickered like a candle in the wind, a testament to the resilience of those who refused to give up. Chapter 4, Global Powers Join the Fray, 2015 to 2016. In 2015, as if scripted by fate, global powers entered the scene. Russia launched airstrikes to bolster Assad's regime, claiming to fight terrorism but often targeting civilian areas instead. Meanwhile, Turkey intervened to counter Kurdish forces along its border while also aiming at ISIS strongholds. Syria became a chessboard for international interests, each move further complicating an already intricate conflict. As foreign powers fought their battles on Syrian soil, ordinary Syrians continued to endure unimaginable hardships. Chapter 5, The Fall of Aleppo, 2016. One of the most significant moments in this tragic saga came in late 2016 when Aleppo fell into Assad's hands. Once a vibrant city filled with life and culture, it now lay in ruins, a stark reminder of what had been lost. For many Syrians, Aleppo symbolized both resistance and despair. Its fall marked a significant victory for Assad but came at an unbearable cost. Thousands were killed or displaced as families fled in search of safety amidst the chaos. Chapter 6, A Stalemate and New Challenges, 2017 to 2023. Following Aleppo's collapse, Assad regained control over much of Syria with Russian support. However, pockets of resistance remained. Kurdish forces held sway in the northeast while rebel factions continued to fight in Idlib province. For years, Syria was locked in a stalemate. Fighting continued sporadically while diplomatic efforts failed to bring about peace. Millions lived as refugees or internally displaced persons, clinging to hope amid uncertainty. Chapter 7, A New Dawn? 2024. Fast forward to 2024, a year that would change everything. With regional powers distracted by other conflicts and shifting alliances among opposition groups, rebel forces launched an unexpected offensive that overwhelmed Assad's weakened military. In a stunning turn of events, Assad's regime collapsed after decades in power, a moment many had long awaited but one that also raised new questions about Syria's future. Chapter 8, The Plight of Minorities in Current Syria, 2025, as Syria attempts to rebuild from its ashes, another story unfolds, one that reveals the precarious existence of its minority communities. Among them are Alawites, Christians, and Druze, who now find themselves navigating an increasingly dangerous landscape. With Assad's regime gone, Alawites have become prime targets for revenge attacks by Sunni factions seeking retribution for years of oppression. In early March 2025 alone, reports surfaced detailing horrific massacres in Alawite heartlands like Latakia and Tartus. Over 1,000 civilians killed within days as entire families were wiped out. The Christian community faces its own challenges. While not systematically targeted like Alawites, they remain vulnerable amidst rising sectarian tensions. Threats against places of worship have become more frequent as extremists seek to impose their ideologies. The Druze community tries to maintain neutrality but finds itself caught between conflicting loyalties, pressured by both sides to take up arms or face dire consequences. As these minority groups grapple with survival amidst ongoing violence and uncertainty looms over their future, questions arise about whether they will find refuge or face further persecution. Will there be space for coexistence in this new Syria? Or will old wounds fester anew? Epilogue, Hope or Uncertainty. Today, Syria stands at a crossroads, a land once filled with promise now grappling with its identity after years of war. Will this new chapter bring peace and stability? Or will old wounds reopen and lead to further conflict?